Welcome back to Arise Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Aniegolu, and this wouldn't quite be prime time in its most original form without our guest analyst to give his take on nearly all the issues and news that we've covered today. And with me till the end of the program is the current affairs analyst and dean of the School of Postgraduate Studies at Baze University in Abuja, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. Prof, thank you very much indeed for joining us. First of all, I mean, you heard that fiery discussion there. Let me start by that attempt by the Transition Committee to charge the meeting of the National Working Committee of the Labour Party. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Trying to break into the meeting, basically, to get rid of Mr. Aburi.
But first, Charles, let's look at it let's give a general overview in the first instance. I think that if the parties, the fragmented parties, in the hair splitting, the nitpicking reproofs that they are both engaged in, if they are focused on the bigger picture of capturing power, they will be less concerned about this back and forth, about this resort to interpretation and reinterpretation of the Constitution, infractions, so-called infractions of the law or not infracting on the law, and of course procedural hiccups that they are raking up, whether genuine or not. If there's much more concern about, changing the narrative around the Nigerian political process, which a lot of people are ordinarily tired about, and which led them, to do so well in last year's presidential election. I think they will downplay these minor, minuscule.
Yeah, but some would argue, I don't mean to interrupt you, some would argue that it is precisely because they saw the potential that the party could have in terms of its generating a lot of traction in the Nigerian public and votes and so on, that people are jockeying for position because they feel that the next time that will put them in sort of better nick, as they say.
No, Charles, you see, you captured it very well in your conclusion with them. That with this continuous fight, the populists might lose confidence in them.
I believe they already are
they will lose
starting
confidence.
to.
And then not also forget that the candidates that came on their platform last year and did so well within a very short term, can as well decide to change party.
Absolutely.
And you will still do well, because nobody will have heard about the Labour Party. Would probably not have been a consequential runner last year if not for the instrumentality of a Peter Obi, for instance. And he still has that reputation, I believe so, to move into another party and effect the same kind of momentum that he injected into the Labour Party, as the case could be. And that's why I think they have to focus on the bigger picture and not this hair splitting that they are constantly engaged in, because it's been too long. It's too long drawn, and by now we will have thought that they will have resolved it. But the gratifying thing is the intervention that Mr. Peter Obi is making. Talking about reconciliation, and reconciliation. You can see him trying to rise above the divides. Trying to be elevated, just to appeal to all the warring factions. And sometimes it may not even be useful being bothered about who is wrong or who is right. As far as I'm concerned, they are all wrong. Because I don't think this is one of the things they are pointing at. They should be. This is not to say that they shouldn't be bothered about infraction, or if there is fraud, that they shouldn't be concerned about
propriety.
This is not to say they shouldn't be bothered about. I think there's a bigger thing ahead of them, and if they think that there are individuals within them that are incompetent or unfit to help them realize their ultimate objective, they should. There's nothing saying that they cannot go by the due process to take that person out, and it can be peacefully done if they are united, goal oriented, objective oriented in the bigger interest of their supporters, which is gradually growing by the day. And you can see their presidential candidate last year, Mr. Peter Obi, they are still in the picture. He's still in the political fray, and he's representing the kind of opposition that we ordinarily want to see in a democracy, providing, alternative views as much as he can do, even though sometimes they hit him back, but it's fine, it's a democracy. And you can also see his vice presidential candidate also doing the same once in a while. This is the kind of alternative opinion that we need, because it is through the conflation of opinion and counter opinion that you can see facts, truism emerging in the process.
So basically, I think I agree with you when you say that essentially many Nigerians were looking for inspiring lines. I mean, they were looking, the impression we're given, maybe because nobody knew much about the Labour Party prior to Mr. Obi joining.
That's right, yeah.
Is that these people were a new breed of politicians. I mean, they did a lot of interviews before, you know, the elections. They seemed like intelligent people, reasonable people, forward-thinking people. I mean, do you think if people had known this disputatious aspect of them, they would have voted for them the way they did? Although, arguably, the point you're making is that Peter Obi was the central focus.
Yeah,
anyway.
it was. I don't think what is happening is not really, is not something you will say they cannot be common to a human setting. Is any interest group populated by human beings. You can see these things reflecting. Sometimes it can just be a contest for ego, you know, a contest of ego, a contest of pride, you know, a kind of battle, you know, to get some local power, local in the sense of leading a political party to remain continuously relevant, probably thinking that in the future they might emerge victorious at the presidential or any other election, and they want to remain relevant, you know. That could be the primary reason, but the bottom line is that if they continue with this fragmentation, you know, leading up to the elections, you know, I don't think even, not just the presidential election, we still have so many off-cycle elections in view, you know, they can begin to make consequential statements even from now on.
But you know, the
election,
the central problem right now, if it could be narrowed down as thinly as possible, appears to be Julius Abure. That seems to be the focus
I think so.
of the dispute.
Absolutely.
Do you think if he goes, things might settle down?
I was going to say that too. I think he too, maybe it's about time he gets ready to make some sacrifice, you know, by saying, okay, if you think I'm the issue, I can just step down in the interest of this party. But do we have leaders who can make such sacrifices in this country? That's one way to also look at it, and it's a thing that he can probably think of doing. And there's actually no big deal. I mean, if he's no longer a chairman, it's not going to be the end of his life.
I mean, he'll still be a member of the party.
An influential member for that matter, maybe a member of the board of trustees. He can even chair it.
And in fact, that might raise his profile with the public.
And his influence and his respect and, you know, reputation as well. So it might be a way to go, because he's been so much in the storm now and again, and it keeps coming up, you know. So we might begin to look his way if the party needs space. Yeah.
Before we go quickly, let me just get your quick response to those dramatic pictures we saw at the beginning of people charging the building. I mean, it was quite extraordinary, wasn't it? Those pictures are on the screen right now.
And of course, we know that you can't achieve peace through those kind of acts. Definitely inappropriate. There might have been some destructions there. Some property might have been destroyed.
Police firing tear gas and all the rest of it.
What about the effect on the human beings, people who were in the buildings? You know, even if they were not injured, they would have been frightened, and this could be a disservice to their health as well. In some other crimes, it can create problems of whiplash, you know, and of course, some other kind of health crisis can result from there, especially for those who have high blood pressure. You know, so this kind of mechanisms are things that we should really discourage. You know, they are laid down procedure for achieving our ends. You know, peaceful.
Do you think people should be prosecuted for that?
If it is possible, but we know what our system looks like, unfortunately, you know, and we do not want to rely on that. The process of apprehension, sanction, prosecution, that could be another different story that might, you know, create further friction and further lines for disputation. It might not be a route to go. Let's just be concerned about peace, and like the presidential candidate last year said, reconciliation, reconciliation, reconciliation. He said it's going to involve the governor of Abia State, you know, one of their governors. There's nothing wrong in getting more governors, but they have one now, so they can build on it, you know. So it's a party of the future, and the statement has been made last year. Why not consolidate on it?
Very good point. Prof, thank you as ever. Professor Abiodun Adeniyi is a current affairs analyst and Dean of the School of Postgraduate Studies at Baze University, Abuja. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.